Now, when it comes to progressive policies like Medicare for all, free college, and the like, jobs guarantee, housing is a human right, you often run into people saying, okay, that's great, but how do you pay for it? How do you pay for it? No, they never ask that question, of course, when it comes to $1 trillion tax cuts for the rich or unlimited war. That is until Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Now, she was recently on CNN with Chris Cuomo, and she's one of the first people on cable news to actually bring that up. Let's take a look.
First of all, the thing that we need to realize is people talk about the sticker shock of Medicare for all. They do not talk about the sticker shock of the cost of our existing system. In a Koch brothers funded study, if any study is going to try to be a little bit slanted, it would be one funded by the Koch brothers. It shows that Medicare for all is actually is actually much cheaper than the current system that we pay right now. And let's not forget that the reason that the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act is because they ruled that each of these monthly payments that everyday Americans make is a tax. And so while it may not seem like we pay that tax on April 15th, we pay it every single month, or we do pay a tax season if we don't buy, these plans off of the exchange. So we're paying for this system. We Americans have the sticker shock of healthcare as it is. And what we're also not talking about is why aren't we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to healthcare? That is part of the cost of our system. Why don't we talk about the cost of reduced productivity because of people who need to go on disability, because of people who are not able to participate in our economy, because because they're having issues like diabetes or they don't have access to the healthcare that they need. I think at the end of the day, we see that this is not a pipe dream. Every other developed nation in the world does this. Why can't America? And that is the question that we need to ask. We have done these things before. We write unlimited blank checks for war. We just wrote a $2 trillion check for that tax cut, the GOP tax cut, and nobody asked those folks how are they going to pay for it. So my question is, why is it that our pockets are only empty when it comes to education and healthcare for our kids? Why are our pockets only empty when we talk about 100% renewable energy that is going to save this planet and allow our children to thrive? We only have empty pockets when it comes to the morally right things to do. But when it comes to tax cuts for billionaires and when it comes to unlimited war, we seem to be able to invent that money very easily. And to me, it belies a lack of moral priorities that people have right now, especially the Republican Party.
Damn. So look, this is something that we almost never see or hear on cable news. In fact, they go to great lengths to avoid these conversations. Why do they do that? Because it's not good for the donors. Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. We have to be neutral, guys. We have to be neutral. We can't actually say what's actually going on because that's going to offend the Republicans. That's going to offend our donors, right? CNN now only begrudgingly allows progressives on to make their case. Now, before Ocasio Cortez and before Bernie Sanders, what progressives were actually allowed on CNN? Do you guys know any? Maybe Van Jones, but usually, and this is the case now still, they're always outnumbered by Hillary Clinton people and right-wingers. That's it. So here's the thing. The media absolutely has a bias. It is not a liberal bias. It's not a conservative bias. It is an establishment bias. And what the establishment loves is they love the status quo. They love war. They love tax cuts for the rich. They love deregulation for giant multinational corporations. That's what they want. And Ocasio Cortez, to answer her question, is why do they never talk about the cost for endless war? It's because they profit off endless war. Even the military. I'm sorry, not the military. Even the television, right? The cable news channels. What do you think endless war is for them? Ratings. It's all about ratings. They profit off this. They profit off the system that exists, and they want to keep that system. And so now you've got somebody like her asking these questions, right, that are on the air. And so, yes, she's getting a lot of buzz because she did do a historic upset. CNN is begrudgingly giving her time. But at the same time, You'll have establishment pushing hit piece after hit piece on progressives, our ideas, and of course, Ocasio Cortez, which they, of course, before went after Bernie Sanders. Now they're going after Ocasio Cortez. And let me give you a great example of that, an article that just recently came out from Michael Graham, writing for CBS News. You know what he just did? He just recently compared Ocasio Cortez to Sarah Palin. I'm not kidding. Now, let me give you some excerpts from this garbage article. She says, he writes, I should say, there's a lot to like about the bold, outspoken battler from the Bronx, who until just a few months ago was still tending bar. She's enthusiastic, she's attractive, she has a degree in economics from Boston University, and she's unapologetic in her self-described socialist views. Okay, well, here's the thing, right? Now, at first, you can tell he's trying to be a little bit complimentary before he gets into his criticism, but that ends up even dripping with condescension. Like, she was still tending bars. She was a bartender. What does she know about politics? And she's enthusiastic and she's attractive. Well, that's all that matters in politics. No, it's not. It only matters for some people. What matters far more are the policies. Now, he continues, and this is where he gets into his critique. Unfortunately, Ocasio Cortez doesn't appear to have test-driven her campus socialism in the real world. Right, yeah, because in the real world, paying more for healthcare per capita than any other country on earth is somehow smart. As a result, he says, her media performances under even the most tepid of questioning have been less than productive. I'm sorry, is he watching the same thing that the rest of us are? Now, here's his examples. In the 6 short weeks since her upset primary win, Ocasio-Cortez says, quote, claimed unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs. Referred to Israel's occupation of Palestine and struggled to explain what that meant. Claimed the upper middle class doesn't exist anymore. Wrongly accused of her defeated Democratic opponent of plotting a third-party challenge against her. Now, wait a minute. What are those, what's false about that? Look, Israel is building illegal settlements in Palestinian land. That is what they're doing. The UN has said, okay, stop building those settlements. Stop doing that. Israel's like, yeah, we'll take that under advisement. That's basically their response. As far as the middle class, it has shrunk from decades of stagnant wages. And a lot of Americans have had to resort to taking second or even third jobs. You know, most of the newly created jobs under President Trump and President Obama have been low-paying service sector jobs. And yes, there has been some construction jobs, and there have been a lot of manufacturing jobs as well, but a lot of those don't pay as much as they used to as well. So, not only that, but what about Crowley? Crowley is on a third-party ticket. He's in the Working Families Party line, right? Because the Working Families Party endorsed him, and now they have endorsed Ocasio-Cortez, and they're like, get off our ballot line. He says, well, it's too hard. It's too hard. I'm not going to do it. It's going to actually take me doing some effort, and so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Why? Why are you not going to do it? Unless you want to be maybe a spoiler. That sounds like what he's going to do. But here, there's more. He says, she also compared the cost of the GOP tax cuts, that's less than $2 trillion over the next 10 years, to the cost of her Medicare for All approach, estimated at around $32 trillion over a decade. Again, here we have a lack of context into that study that was done by the Koch brothers, the Mercatus Institute. That same study showed that we would save $2 trillion over that same 10-year period if we were to switch from our current system, which costs more than $32 trillion, and which is expected to cost even more over the next 10 years, we would save $2 trillion. No context. We're not talking about any of the facts of the article. What we're doing is that we're basically spinning it to say, oh, look at this progressive. She's so dumb. She's so dumb and she's naive and she's not living in the real world. Why didn't she go back to her campus, because the socialism and all that stuff doesn't make any sense. She's not living in the real world. And then, to buttress his point, he goes to a moderate Democrat, right? And who says basically that she is not ready for prime time. Because she doesn't know how to play the game right. She doesn't know that you're supposed to bow down to the right wing, that you're supposed to bow down to the right wing's talking points, adopt them, and then when the American public is screaming for something like Medicare for all, over 60% of Americans want a Medicare for all system because right now we're drowning in medical debt, we're drowning in student loan debt. You're supposed to sit there and say, I'm sorry, what can I do? The Republicans have to win because they're ultimately right in the process. Look, there's so much in this article that, it is just absolute trash. Now, Graham sits there and spends at least another paragraph talking about what Fox News and the Republicans are going to say about her terrible media appearances. Oh, Fox News is trumpeting her as somebody who just doesn't know anything. Yeah, they can do that when they take you out of context. And that's absolutely what they do. They take you out of context. They leave out important information. Again, we've all seen the spin on that Medicare for All study. And of course, they try to do anything they can to make socialism seem very, very scary, and to make her seem like she's not a very smart person, which is absolutely ridiculous because she is smart and they're absolutely scared of her. And here's one more quotation here from the article. Candidates who promote policies like single-payer healthcare or free college tuition or government-guaranteed jobs for all know that they're going to face the Margaret Thatcher question eventually. How do you pay for it? We already know how to pay for it. We've already told you how we're going to pay for it in very detailed policy papers. Numerous studies have also shown, even right-wing studies have shown, Medicare for all saves money. Free college for all actually saves money because right now we are spending so much on the hodgepodge of different programs like grants and things like that for students. Then we would actually save more money if we were to switch just to say, okay, publicly funded education, go. We would save money. But of course, it's the same refrain over and over again. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Well, we never ask, how are we going to pay for war? How are we going to pay for Donald Trump's fucking Space Force? How are we going to pay for the wall? Nobody talks about that. Because they don't want to talk about that. All they want to do, and this is the establishment here at work, they say they don't bring any context, and they have ridiculous and easy to disprove assumptions. And of course, then they work to minimize incredibly powerful progressive voices that are actually talking about ideas that people love. And here's the kicker about this, right? Here's the overall takeaway. They're afraid. When the attacks against you reach this kind of fever pitch, you know that whatever you're doing it right. You're doing something right when they are this afraid of you and your policies. And so to Ocasio Cortez, keep on going. Keep on doing what you're doing a fantastic job. Not everybody's going to be perfect in every single interview. Some people are going to slip up, and that happens sometimes. But overall, she's an amazing, excellent, articulate speaker, and she's great for the progressive movement. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.